Hello and welcome to the virtual orientation for the Thousand Islands event. There's lots of content to get through, so let's kind of hop to it. But I'd be remiss if I didn't start by saying that the highlight of this event is your chance to race in the tunnel. I believe it's the only time of year where you can actually race through the Brockville Railway Tunnel. So I hope you enjoy that feature as much as we enjoy planning the run right through it. So for all the content in this video, we'll go in chronological order. We'll go from pre-race to swim, bike, run, and then post-race. Not everyone does those events in those order. Obviously a triathlon is swim, bike, run, but if you're doing a duathlon, you can kind of ignore the swim portion. If you're doing a swim cycle, you can ignore the bike portion, so on and so forth. But for the pre-race, I'll use my cursor here to highlight a few things. The event's taking place in Brockville in Centene Park, right over here. So the day before the race, we will have bib pickup from 3 to 6 p.m. You can come anytime during that window, see the setup, do a bit of a walkthrough, ask your questions, talk to our race crew, and get your bib taken care of. It's a lot less things to do on race day. You can still show up on race day and get it done then, but if you do it the day before, it's incredibly beneficial, and you get to come spend the day in Brockville. How great is that? If you're coming the day before as well, we have the option of an in-person orientation at 4 o'clock and at 5 o'clock. So we're there from 3 to 6, so for the first hour, anybody can come pick up their bib and just walk around, ask questions and whatnot. You can still pick up your bib at 4 or 5 or anything else like that, but at 4 o'clock, I'll be there myself. I'll meet you right where this dot is, and I'll spend about a half hour or so to 45 minutes walking you around the course. We'll talk about the swim by going to look at the swim. We'll talk about the bike and we'll walk over to the bike mounting line. We'll talk about the run and go through the finishing area. It's a chance to see things in person, and it's really helpful if it's your first time doing this race or your first time doing any race. It's really fun, I think, to do things in person. If you're more of a visual learner, I think things stick a lot better with the in-person orientation, so feel free to join us for that. If you're coming on the morning of, your little order of operation, if I may, is you'll park. So there's a big parking lot right over here where all these green lines, right over here, right beside the green lines. If that's full, there's plenty of community parking, so anywhere you can find spots is fine. You'll bike over or walk over. People often think, oh, if I park all the way over here, it's a long walk, but they forget that they're carrying a bike with them, so you might as well just ride your bike on over. It opens up a little more of a parking option situation for you. Once you arrive on site, you'll get your bib, if you haven't already. You'll get your body marking, you'll get your timing chip, and you'll go set up your bike in the T-zone. You will do your warm-up if you want to do a little warm-up, and then get to the start line. Some other kind of miscellaneous things. Late registration. At some races, we allow for registration on site the day before. We don't allow it on race morning because at race morning, everything's set up. There's no more room to kind of add more things onto the event. But that is subject to availability. This race sold out 4 or 5 weeks in advance last year. We think it might happen again, so we encourage you to sign up early. And you're watching this video, you likely have already signed up. If anyone wants to race with you, remind them to sign up early. All right, the swim. So, Centene Park is right over here, the same park that we had in the last map. There's a nice little staircase right over here. Everyone goes in the water kind of one at a time. When the race starts, we're all going to line up kind of from fastest going onwards. We go 3, 2, 1, go. Everyone enters the water. The nice thing is that your time won't start until you enter the water, so there's no need to be the first one in the water. So if you don't think you're the fastest swimmer of the whole crew, put yourself where you think you might fit in well. And when the gun goes off, take your time, go in the water on your own terms, and your time will start then. Then everyone goes in the water, they swim, going A, B, C, D, E, and F, and they come on back. If you're doing the Olympic, you do 2 loops of that, 1, 2, and then you come back. If you're doing the sprint, it's just 1 and back. And then for the try, the plan is to go here, do 1 little loop, it's just 200 meters, and you go back. The St. Lawrence is obviously a big body of water. I don't want to say it's unpredictable, but the conditions can be different every year. It's not like when we swim in bays and lakes and whatnot, where every year we kind of get the same water conditions. So this is the plan, but in years past we've made some little changes. Last year, for example, we had swimmers going clockwise instead of counterclockwise. If we make any changes like that, we'll let you know in advance. I will let you know during the in-person, orientation and before the race start. But a small change like that, going clockwise versus counterclockwise, is very possible. And the nice thing is that it won't really affect your training or your planning or whatnot, because when you're going through the course, it'll be the same setup, and you won't get lost because you'll be following the person in front of you. The lead swimmers will be following the kayakers in the boat that lead the course. And if anybody ends up going off course, we've got about 20 different personnel in the water helping with lifeguarding and paddle boarding and course correction and whatnot. So there's no harm or anything like that. And then similarly, in the past years, we even had the try stay within the bay here. So instead of going out and doing this, kind of doing a big loop here, there was one year where we had a bit of chop, so we had the swimmers doing a loop in here instead, more protected by this little rock wall. So keep all that in mind. Other, again, miscellaneous things we just note here. So smile for the camera. We'll have photographers at the start and the finish. They'll be right around the staircase when you come out of that water and you finish your swim and you're a 2025 Somersault Thousand Islands Triathlon swim finisher. They'll capture that moment there. As far as cutoff times, you have to be finished your swim before the next race starts. So when you're signing up, look at what time the race starts, what time the next race starts, see how much time you have, and make sure you fit within that window. So that's the summary of the swim. If you have any questions, let me know, but we will head on to the bike. So swim is done, goggles are off, cap is off, helmet's on, and you get on the bike. So we'll zoom into here. This little blue square is Centene Park. You'll hop on the road. There's a little orange line on the ground with some volunteers. That's where you get on the bike. You go up Ford Street. This is the biggest hill in the whole race. It's probably the only real hill in the race, and it's right at the front at the start of the race. I'm very sorry. Once you get past that, it's smooth sailing. From here, all the way down Highway 2 to the turnaround and back. If you're doing the Olympic distance, swim, cycle, or triathlon, you do 2 loops, and the turn point is at the very top of the hill, not the bottom of the hill. You're welcome. So again, just to reiterate, everyone goes up and over, and they go out and back. If you're doing 2 loops, you do your turnaround here, and you go back. Then you come down Ford Street, over to where you started at Centene Park, get off the bike, and that's the end of that. It's a very straight road, pretty flat, no blind corners or turns or anything like that. When you get to the turnaround point, it's a simple 10 kilometer out, 10 kilometer back, but at the 10 kilometer mark, we'll have some cones, we'll have a sign, and we'll have a kind of a security vehicle with all the lights on, making it very obvious that this is the turn point. Keep in mind that most of this road is open to traffic. We close down the road within Brockville, which is where most of the traffic is, but as soon as you get out onto Highway 2 proper, it is open road. So be mindful, be aware, and be predictable. There might be cars on the road. There are obviously other cyclists. There might be people just enjoying their day, going for a bike ride of their own. So you have to contend with all of that. Please be reasonable, predictable, and courteous to everyone else on the road. And then cutoff times. So at noon, we have to open up this stretch of road. So please make sure you have enough time to get back before noon, because at that point the road is open. Also important to know your loops. So if we're going down the list here, every year there's kind of one person who gets that turnaround point and they go, do I turn here? And we have to stop and figure out, okay, are you in the Olympic? Are you in the sprint? Have you done 1 loop? Or are you in your 2nd loop? So we'll do our best to help you out, but it's really important that you know whether you're doing 1 loop or 2 loops. And then for the swim cycle athletes, what you'll do is you're doing the swim, you're doing the cycle. When you finish the cycling portion, you put your bike back, and then you just have to run from the T-zone to the finish line. It's only about 40 meters. I know you didn't sign up for a run, but you got to do a bit of a 40-meter run. So for you guys, swim cycle athletes, make sure you run to the finish line, and then your time will stop. For everybody else, you have the highlight of the event is the run. So my first reminder, again, is smile for the camera. I think the course is beautiful. The tunnel itself is, I think, one of the biggest running features I've ever seen on a run course. It's Canada's oldest railway tunnel. It has a nice lights and sound show. It plays Canadian music like the Tragically Hip during the whole race. A really wonderful experience. So you're going to start at Centene Park, which is right here again. You run around. They got a nice new path that runs through here. You're all off the road for his. It's all sidewalk and path and whatnot. Then you go through the tunnel, up a little hill, back down to where you started. So 1 loop is 2.5 kilometers. You're either doing 1 loop, 2 loops, or 4 loops. As we've got the note here, please make sure you know how many loops you're doing. The example is pretty obvious, but you get to the turnaround point here and you go, how many loops left? Well, our volunteer there has to quickly decide, okay, that person is wearing that color bib, so that means they're in that race, and I wonder if they've done 1, 2, 3, or 4 loops already. It's a real struggle for our team to be able to give all that information in a split second, but if you know you're doing 1, 2, 3, or 4 loops, as long as you can count to 4, and you got a GPS watch on and whatnot, I think we'll make it to the end A-OK. And that's it. After you've done all that in any combination, whether you're a duathlete, a triathlete, or a swim cycle athlete, or just doing the run, you're now a 2025 Somersault 1,000 Islands finisher, and it's time for the post-race. So you cross the finish line, we'll have all kinds of snacks and food there. We'll have some music going on. The announcer is still going. We'll do a little award ceremony and whatnot. We will have Libra non-alcoholic beer at the finish line, a great Canadian beer company from PEI. You can buy their product at Costco and online and a few other retailers. We really like it genuinely, and we hope that you enjoy having it at our races. Other kind of miscellaneous reminders is the photos from the race, usually a couple thousand photos that our photographers take. They'll all be posted and categorized at photos.somersault.ca within 42 to 72 hours, of the race finishing. And then the results are live pretty instantly at sportstats.ca. If you see any mistakes, just make sure you email them and get it corrected. Once in a while, people are put in the wrong age group or the wrong event, or there's little mistakes, whether it's human error or just data error. Things happen, but it's a very quick fix. Flip them an email and they'll get that sorted. So that's the course orientation in a nutshell. If you have any questions, let me know. My name's Adam, and it's adam@somersault.ca. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you at the start line at the Thousand Islands event, or even better, at bib pickup the day before. Thanks, and I will see you all then.